So the idea was that I show the kind of process, you can say, I went through in the selections. At the time, I was thinking of two paintings, which was this interior of this barbershop, and of this figure climbing up through this tree. So it was just, at the time, I wasn't sure what I would be doing. So the idea was just to kind of work through the process. The interior of the barbershop came from some photographs I took. The picture of the figure in the tree is something I've been trying to kind of describe or to make. So, but then I will use photographs, and I'll always take photographs of, or find images, or go out and make sketches and draw, and then pull them in to the students. And then at some point in that process, you'll decide to start to make the painting, and then while you're making the painting, you will then go back in to make drawings. So it's a constant process of going backwards and forwards. Usually starts with just a small sketch, maybe A5, A6 size, and then they kind of grow. So in the photograph, because there were figures in the way and people got in the way of things and there were things missing, you start to have to imagine and work out where things should be in that space. So hence these two drawings, collages. The first collage was about trying to organize what size the painting should be. So it kind of went through the kind of maybe elaborate process of almost trying to recreate something that might resemble the space. Once you started to put color in, then it started to become about, it felt like it was a map in some way. So the original photograph I had all these photographs in the background where someone had taken it. So I'd kind of presumed that they were 5x7, which is a kind of standard photographic size. And then from that, I decided to crop. I went through a series of crops to find the right scale, the right place. This is where this imagery starts, the painting starts to become about the imagery more than the organization, and then finding the right imagery to fit, which was actually the most, I think it's probably the hardest part to kind of transform, who should the characters be, why should they be in there, how can they, this never really finished. In the end, I just had to kind of put a stop to it. And it's okay to be black, the Arts Council painting. The figures there are, I guess they're figures from history. I played around with Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, and even in that process it was quite hard to decide. Big figures I was looking at are political figures, sportsmen, and women as well. They're kind of an iconography. Lieutenant Uhuru, Michael Jackson, Malcolm X. I think the Malcolm X and Martin Luther King images, finding out what they look like. Not so finding what everyone knows what they look like, but because you were looking at them so much, you started to really look at them, and then you almost didn't recognize them. Part of the painting is a little bit about maleness, or if there's such a thing, about how black men are portrayed in a way, how things are represented. It's, I realized at the end that it's maybe full of too many American images, and that's probably not the balance I really was looking for. Yeah, maybe interesting for me in the sense of how we look at things, or how we can get drawn to something, and, or if you don't, maybe check yourself, see what you're looking at, or work out what you're looking at. I never really see what I consider an ordinary black person doing ordinary things. It doesn't show. It doesn't appear so much, I think, in it's okay to be black, this idea about that, but more in the grafting painting, or scrumping painting, I should say. This black boy in a tree, just climbing trees. But yeah, and just make it a kind of ordinary, an ordinary moment, which I don't think there is enough of. You know, there's always a kind of an element of, if you're black, you're in a media in some way. Someone asked me if I make a finished drawing, and I realized I don't really make a finished drawing. I think they're more explorations and trying to work things out. I'll start something and then I'll leave it and I'll go on to something else, because I think in my head I've worked it out. And I think this is all part of that thing of just trying to kind of scratch out or eke out what this thing should be. It's supposed to be the figure climbing or stepping across these two spaces is gnawing at me a little bit, in the sense that maybe I just want people to understand that there are two things happening as opposed to just the one, because the image kind of melts into one. Maybe the connection is, I think, is on one level it's just the colour, the start of the use of colour in a way. In using colour to organise the space. With the barbershop painting and the use of the mirrors, and the fact that you can play around with the idea of reflections and just go back in time in a way. The fact that this thing repeat, it kind of not only goes back in time, but there was a kind of infinity about it, which I quite timelessness in a way, or continuation of time that never-ending time that I was enjoying. The grafting, which I describe as the scrumping image of the boy climbing the tree, because it was about a mango tree, a boy climbing a mango tree and a pear tree, one single figure climbing both these trees at the same time. It was like combining two different times and spaces. A lot of what this work came about through was the fact that I was the last of 8, and everyone else was born in Jamaica, and I was born in Britain. So I never thought it meant much, but in the background I was using it. But then as time has gone on, I realized it kind of, to me, it meant a lot, because it was always been about this these conversations I felt went on at home about Jamaica, and they kind of sit in the imagination, and not knowing about these places, essentially. I don't know anything about Jamaica, essentially. So it was a little bit about trying to, little bit about not knowing about these places, and also about maybe trying to get to know it in some way, in a kind of second-hand, odd way.